Hello viewers, it's Cynthia Michael from Ski News, bringing you my 732 podcast. This is my 732 podcast. Like always, I'm going to speak very loudly, very clearly, and very slowly, in case you don't understand me. Also, I try to do my best not to beat your heart during our podcast be recorded as well, not to cause any audio feedback as well. And finally, if you're under 18, this our podcast recording will change to adult language. Once again, if you're under 18, this audio podcast recording will change to adult language if you're under 18. Now, if you're over 18, then you still have to watch this audio podcast recording. Now, with this and everything else out the way, let's get into the topic of this podcast. Let's get into the topic of this. Let's get into the topic. So basically, Invincible has ended its fourth season, and I gotta say, oh God, it was just once again Invincible had dealt with some serious issues, but most of the serious issues we've seen throughout all four seasons is the effect of mental stress on people's mental health and what's your name? Trying to make up for all the wrongdoing that you do to others. So basically, this has been a recurring. These lessons have been a recurring thing as well. So basically, sometimes you letting stress, having stress that really affects you. It's important to deal with stress on your mental health, and basically, and dealing with the fallout or what you did to or the wrongdoing that you do to others. As well. So basically that's been a recurring thing throughout these four seasons. And also sometimes you will have to do the work, sometimes you will have to do something, sometimes you will have to do something you don't want to order to help others as well. So basically when we see with Mark, Mark throughout the early seasons, Mark didn't really he didn't really kill anyone unless he doesn't he hesitates to kill anyone unless there's no other option. Throughout this season, Mark he said I'm willing to kill. So basically, I'm going to kill somebody unless when it comes down to it, I will not hesitate to kill anybody when it comes down to it. So basically, Mark always figured that superheroes don't kill unless they. He always kept that in mind. He always hesitated to not kill the bad guys unless there's a last resort. But in this season we see Mark is I'm going to is this person a bigger threat? If this person is really dangerous, I will take him out. No, I would take him out no matter what. So basically, when it comes to killing. So basically, Mark had learned that lesson. Eve learned the stress of the baby. Eve had, when Eve. And when Eve was pregnant, she basically let the stress of the baby get to her instead of talking her powers out with Mark or her parents. I can't blame her. Her mom is okay, but her father's a little douchebag. But he does love her. But Eve was kind of Eve let the mental stress of the baby, of her being pregnant, really mentally stress her out and whatnot. And basically, and not because of her pregnancy, she couldn't use her powers either. And basically, she really went to mental stress. As for Mark, as for Nolan, he really went to the ringer, trying to make up to all the wrongdoing that he did in the previous seasons and whatnot, and basically trying to make try to make up with Debbie and whatnot, but Debbie seems to give him a lot of crap for it, hey, whatever, you fucked up, you expect us to forgive you, get the fuck out of here. So basically, that's how the mentality Debbie and, Caesar and some of the others had towards them, hey, you're trying to change because you want to feel good about the wrong things you did in your past, but now, and want people to forgive you. It's not going to be that easy. So basically, Nolan went through a lot of crap there. As for Debbie really what Nolan did really affected Debbie. What Nolan did and said to her really affected her mentally as well. Basically, so basically her relationship, what's her name, suffered from that. So basically, Debbie, Debbie went through some mental, she let the mental stress to what Nolan did, what Nolan did, etc. really affected her relationship with Paul. So basically, her relationship suffered with that mental stress that she went through with Nolan really affected her relationship with Paul and whatnot. So anyway, I gotta say this was a good. As towards if you haven't watched the final episode of this season, I gotta say Mark had to. Sometimes you will have to make difficult. You will have to make a really tough choices as well. So basically, Mark had to make a real tough choice about was making real tough choices and whatnot. And basically, Mark's mental stress. Mark has been going through a lot, and basically, all the stress really affected his mental health as well. So basically, we see him having panic attacks and whatnot, and basically when it came down to the whole Visionite problem that he's facing now, he had to make a very tough choice, but it was a tough choice either way. He did the right thing in that moment, even though it's a tough choice. Also, it's all about. Also, one of the other main lessons, the main lessons of the season is sometimes you will have to make difficult choices to make sure you will have to sooner or later we all have to make difficult choices, but for the greater good. So basically, we see that with Mark, and now we see that with Alan. We see that with Mark and Alan. So basically, hoping that that Alan does not use that scared virus, and also I hoping that I know that Alan is a good guy though, but I hoping that Alan does not use that scared virus. I hope he we just have to wait and see. So anyway, this was a good fourth season of Invincible. So basically, a lot of tough choices, dealing with mental health, and also dealing with the crap of making up for all the wrongdoing that you did to others in this, making up for all the wrongdoing that you did to others as well. So basically, there's a lot of good important message in this fourth season. So anyway, what do you guys think about? What do you guys think about the fourth season of Invincible? Good, bad, or just okay? Or nah? Please let me know in the comments below. Anyway, sign off for Screw Reviews 1.